The Zephyrian High Command gathered aboard the Vorax Sovereign. The flagship loomed like a silent predator in the endless black. Outside the massive viewport, stars glittered cold and distant. Nebulae painted the void in cold blues and greens. The war room buzzed with low hums of alien tech. Holographic star maps floated in midair, spinning slowly. The maps glowed bright blue and emerald green, pulsing with data streams. Every known human system flickered red, a target ripe for conquest. The room was sleek and sharp, built for efficiency and power. Commanders paced around a central table, their scales glistening under the soft lights. Their eyes were sharp, cold, filled with certainty. The Zephyrian species prided themselves on speed, precision, and ruthlessness. They were a race born to dominate. "Humans?" Commander Velcorin scoffed, voice like gravel. He tapped a blinking red dot on the map. "Those pitiful Earthlings? They're slow, weak. Their ships are relics of a forgotten age." "Primitive and archaic," growled Commander Sci-Fi, her ridged snout curling in disdain. "Their technology barely scratches the surface compared to ours." The room echoed with low laughter. They traded stories mocking humanity's lack of refinement. "They use chemical thrusters and clunky hulls," Velcorin spat. "No shields worth the name. No real weapons to threaten us. Their war room was a cathedral of power." Transparent consoles flickered with streams of data. Light traced along etched circuits like veins of energy. Walls pulsed softly with bioluminescent patterns. Living tech melded with cold metal. The Vorax Sovereign was a masterpiece of war, built to crush and conquer. "Dispatch the fleet," barked General Krelzath. "Let us erase the humans from this sector." One of the younger commanders, Laz Thur, grinned as he activated a cluster of holograms. Swarms of Zephyrian cruisers appeared, sleek, fast, deadly. "Our ships will outpace their feeble vessels by light years. They won't even see us coming." Velcoran's eyes glinted with hunger. "Their resistance will die before it begins. We will take their colonies, their resources, and their primitive worlds." Scytha spread her clawed hands. "No need for mercy. These humans are an annoyance, a minor blip on the galactic map." The commanders leaned in, plotting strikes on the holographic map. Red lines traced paths from Zephyrian strongholds to human systems. Nova Prime glowed, newly colonized and ripe for destruction. Velcoran tapped the glowing star. "Our weapons will rain fire from orbit. Their ground forces will crumble. Their ships are slow, easy prey." Suddenly, a sensor flickered across the room. Laz Thur frowned, scanning for human fleet activity. Nothing beyond weak patrols. Krelzath smirked. "Exactly as expected. They do not have the power to challenge us." The room filled with confident chatter. The Zephyrians were prepared to crush humanity with little effort. Their arrogance was thick. "Prepare all squadrons," Krelzath ordered. "Our victory will be swift." Velcorin paused, looking out the viewport. He watched distant stars twinkle like jewels. "It is almost too easy," he murmured. But in the shadows of the galaxy, old warnings echoed, whispers from elder races that had faced humanity before, ancient tales of a hidden strength in humans. Those stories were dismissed here, in the gleaming war room of the Vorax Sovereign. Here, only power mattered. The Zephyrian High Command was ready to strike. They believed the humans would fall, as all others had, and the war for humanity's future had begun. The grand archives of the Zephyrian Empire held secrets few cared to revisit. Deep within the Vorax Sovereign, past the war room's glowing star maps, lay a chamber filled with ancient tomes and flickering holograms. The light was dim, blue and green hues dancing across walls lined with relics from forgotten ages. Zephyrian historians, cloaked in robes of cobalt and silver, gathered around a polished obsidian table. Their faces were etched with skepticism, eyes sharp but unconvinced. "Elythrian warnings again," muttered High Scholar Varnus, flipping through brittle pages. The ancient tomes crackled softly, their star charts marked with strange symbols that pulsed faintly. "Those Elythrians speak in riddles," said Historian Corell, his tone dripping with disdain. "Their tales are myths, exaggerated beyond reason. Humans are primitive. How could such a species threaten us?" Varnus tapped a hologram flickering before them. An image of a tall, slender Elythrian shimmered, a race draped in flowing robes, their eyes shining with timeless wisdom. "Long ago," Varnus began, voice low and urgent, "the Elythrians warned us. They said humanity possesses an unpredictable force, not just technology, but adaptability, an instinct beyond logic." Carell scoffed. Instinct? We have measured every human weapon, every strategy. They lack the speed, the firepower to challenge us. A third voice, older and more cautious, spoke. Yet they survived the Ravager Wars. When entire systems fell, humanity endured. That alone demands respect. The chamber fell silent. The hologram shifted, showing flickering maps of past battles where humans faced overwhelming odds and emerged bruised but unbeaten. Varnus leaned forward. The Elithrians told us of hidden strengths. They warned that humans might use physics differently, that they would defy our expectations. Carroll shook his head. Warnings from ancient races are no substitute for reality. We have superior fleets, superior tactics. Varnus' fingers hovered over the star charts, highlighting a pattern of strange annotations in the margins, indecipherable glyphs that pulsed with subtle energy. These annotations, he said, may hint at what the Elithrians saw. A technology or method beyond our comprehension. You chase ghosts, Carroll retorted. We will crush them before they reveal any secrets. Suddenly, the room's walls pulsed with a faint hum. The holograms flickered, showing a star field where human ships moved in erratic patterns, too fast, too sudden. Look here, Varnus said, pointing. Their ships jump unpredictably. They warp distances in ways we cannot explain. Carroll frowned. Improvisation, nothing more. Humans are reckless gamblers. The old scholar sighed. Perhaps, but the Elithrians urged caution. They spoke of humans as something more, a storm hidden beneath fragile skin. Outside the chamber, the war room buzzed with confident chatter. The Zephyrian High Command prepared their assault, blind to the truth buried in dusty pages. Varnus closed the tome slowly. We ignore the warnings at our peril. Carroll's laugh echoed coldly. Better to face reality than ancient fairy tales. The chamber dimmed as holograms faded. The Zephyrian fleet readied for war, convinced they knew their enemy. Yet, deep in the shadows of history, the true challenge waited, and humanity's secret was about to shatter their certainty. The UESN Defiance cut through the black like a silver blade. Stars streaked past its battered hull, their light glinting off patched armor plates and glowing engine vents. The ship was no beauty queen. Scars of old battles marked every inch. Inside, the bridge buzzed with quiet energy. Consoles blinked, holoscreens flickered with data streams. The air smelled faintly of burnt circuits and recycled oxygen, a scent that felt strangely like home. Captain Ryan Blake stood tall in the center, his gaze fixed on the viewport. He was a man shaped by conflict, lines of hard experience carved into his face. His uniform bore the marks of years in service, a faded patch over his heart, insignia dulled but proud. "Status report," Blake said, voice low and steady. Jake Morrison, the tactical officer, flicked fingers over his console. His sharp eyes scanned incoming data. "All clear in this sector, Captain." Nova Prime's colonies report no unusual activity. Patrol steady, sensors picking up nothing but routine traffic. Lisa Hayes, the ship's chief engineer, leaned over a console humming with power readings. Engines running at 80%. Life support stable, still nursing a few minor glitches from the last skirmish, but nothing critical. Blake nodded. Good, keep it that way. The bridge crew worked like a well-oiled machine. Each member trusted the other with their lives. Jake cracked a grin. Feels almost peaceful. Too peaceful. Lisa smirked. You're just jinxing us, Morrison. The Defiance was a veteran vessel. Its design was born from humanity's grit. No sleek curves or shining chrome. Instead, it wore its history openly, metal plates reinforced here, wires patched there. Makeshift upgrades stood side by side with cutting-edge tech. The bridge's walls held stories, old mission patches tacked near the communications console. A worn photo taped to the bulkhead showed a crew long gone but never forgotten. The hum of the engines was a heartbeat, steady and strong. Blake's eyes shifted to the star map projected above the main console. A flicker highlighted Nova Prime, a blue-green jewel orbiting a young sun. Human colonies had sprung up there in recent years, a new foothold in a crowded galaxy. Nova Prime is our future, Blake said softly. Jake leaned back, fingers steepled. It's more than that. It's proof we can survive out here, against anyone. Lisa's fingers danced across her controls. Speaking of survival, Captain, sensors just picked up something. Blake's brow furrowed. What is it? Jake tapped rapidly, pulling up the readings. Movement, not local traffic, something big out past the outer belt. Could be a fleet. Lisa's gaze sharpened. Speed and formation don't match any known friendly forces. Blake straightened. "Zepyrian?" "Likely," Jake said. "They're not subtle." The bridge grew tense. Calm had shattered like glass. Blake stepped forward, voice steady but firm. "All hands, battle stations. This isn't a drill." The crew snapped into action. Lights dimmed to alert red. Holomaps zoomed, showing distant blips closing fast. Lisa moved to the engine console, fingers flying. "Prepping power reroutes. We'll need every ounce of thrust." Jake keyed comms, voice clipped. "Defiance to Nova Prime. Alert all colonies. Brace for possible engagement." Blake looked out again. The void beyond shimmered with distant stars, but something darker lurked between them. "Let's see what they want," Blake said, voice calm but fierce. Outside, the Defiance's silhouette loomed against the starfield. Battle-worn but unbroken. Ready. The galaxy was vast. But tonight, on the edge of human space, a storm was gathering, and the Defiance would be at its heart. The sudden thunder of alien warships shattered the calm of Nova Prime's orbit. High above the blue-green planet, the Zepyrian fleet blotted out stars. Their sleek black hulls gleamed cold under distant suns. Sharp plasma cannons bristled like deadly thorns. The flagship Vorax Sovereign led the line, massive and ominous. Below, human colonies nestled on verdant continents. Cities glittered with lights, unaware of the storm closing in. "Sir, sensors confirm multiple contacts entering system velocity. Zepyrian fleet massing," Jake Morrison reported from the UESN Defiance's tactical station. His fingers flew over holographic displays. Captain Ryan Blake stood steady on the bridge, eyes narrowing. "Battle stations. Alert all colonies. Prepare planetary defenses." Lisa Hayes, the chief engineer, checked the engine status. "Systems green. Shields at 60%. We'll need more time to boost." The Defiance's bridge hummed with controlled urgency. Outside, stars streaked as warships formed deadly formations. Flashes of brilliant plasma tore through the void. The Zepyrians opened fire without warning. Beams lanced towards the planet's surface. Massive explosions blossomed on cities like fireworks of destruction. Buildings crumbled into dust. Fires spread like wildfire through forests and plains. Nova Prime's night sky burned red, the glow reflecting on frightened faces below. "Colony Alpha's under heavy bombardment," an officer shouted. On the Defiance, alarms blared. Crew members scrambled to stations. The ship's shields flickered as plasma bolts pounded their hull. "Brace for impact," Blake barked. The UESN Atlantica, another human warship guarding the colony, answered with volleys of missiles and laser fire. But the Zepyrian ships were fast, weaving through defenses with lethal precision. A plasma blast struck the Atlantica's engine core. The ship shuddered violently. Sparks flew. Crew screams echoed through comms before silence swallowed the channel. "No! Atlantica down!" Morrison's voice cracked. Blake clenched his jaw. The loss hit hard, but the fight was far from over. "Fall back to defensive perimeter," Blake ordered. "We can't hold the colonies alone. Regroup and prepare for counterattack." On the ground, human soldiers fought bravely. Boarding parties dropped from Zepyrian shuttles, clad in sleek armor, wielding weapons that crackled with alien energy. Human defenders met them with grit and desperation. Explosions tore apart buildings. Streets became battlegrounds of fire and smoke. "Hold the line!" a human commander yelled through the chaos. Back in space, the Zepyrian fleet pressed their advantage. Their ships darted faster, striking with deadly accuracy. The Defiance shook under repeated hits. "How are they moving so fast?" Lisa muttered, eyes wide. "They're ships. They're exploiting known physics, but something's off." Blake's gaze hardened. "We're not just facing guns and shields. They've come prepared." Zepyrian commanders on the Vorax Sovereign laughed over secure channels. "Human technology is archaic," one sneered. "They cannot match our speed or firepower. Watch as their resistance crumbles," another taunted. But even as the Zepyrians celebrated, Blake knew the real fight was just beginning. "Prepare for tactical retreat," he commanded. "Well lived to fight another day." The Defiance turned away, weaving through enemy fire with skill born from years of battle. As the ship slipped from orbital range, the devastation of Nova Prime lay behind them. Cities aflame, colonies shattered. Yet, in the shadows of defeat, a flicker of hope stirred, and the Zepyrians had no idea what was coming next. The bridge of the UESN Defiance was tense. The hum of the engines filled the air, steady and unyielding. Captain Ryan Blake stood at the command console, eyes sharp, scanning the chaos unfolding on the star maps. The Zephyrian fleet was fast, too fast. They struck like lightning bolts, swift and deadly. Jake Morrison crouched by the tactical station, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface, his brow furrowed deep. The Zephyrian ships moved with incredible speed, faster than any recorded before in this sector. But something was off. They're pushing their drives beyond rated limits, Jake muttered. Lisa Hayes, the ship's chief engineer, leaned in beside him. Her dark eyes sparkled with a mix of curiosity and challenge. But it's not just speed. Their trajectories, look here. She zoomed in on several Zephyrian vessels weaving through space in patterns that shouldn't be possible. It looked like chaos, but Jake noticed something else, a subtle pattern beneath the erratic dance. They're exploiting slipstream physics, Jake said. But I think they're missing. Lisa cut him off with a grin. The secret humans cracked years ago. The slipstream drive. Blake turned sharply, eyes narrowing. Slipstream. That tech was still experimental last time I checked. Lisa nodded. It's more than experimental now. I've been working on the Defiance's upgraded core. The slipstream drive lets us jump almost instantaneously and perform maneuvers that make us unpredictable. We can appear anywhere, anytime. That's why they couldn't lock onto us properly during the last skirmish. The bridge fell silent. The crew absorbed the weight of her words. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered as the Defiance powered up its secret weapon. The ship vibrated subtly, lights dimmed and shifted, the hull's metal shimmered with iridescent colors, deep blues, purples, and flashes of silver. Stars stretched and blurred as the ship bent space around itself. Jake's voice broke the silence. Slipstream activation in 3, 2, 1. With a low, resonant hum, the UESN Defiance vanished from its spot near Nova Prime. On the Zephyrian side, aboard the Vorax Sovereign, the alien command crew gasped. "What in the void?" hissed Commander Zhaltok. The sensors blinked wildly. A Defiance had just disappeared. Then, suddenly, reports flooded in. Multiple human ships detected. Behind our rear guard, the Zephyrian fleet's perfect formation shattered like glass. Back on the Defiance, Lisa's fingers flew over the controls. We're not alone. Slipstream signatures detected near the edge of the system. Blake's lips tightened into a grim smile. This is it, the Armada. Hundreds of human warships blinked into existence from slipspace, emerging like phantoms. Their hulls bore scars from countless battles, layers of patched armor, and glowing engine cores pulsing with raw power. The fleet was massive. Destroyers, cruisers, frigates, all battle-hardened and ready. Jake's voice was sharp with disbelief over the comms. "How are human ships moving that fast?" a Zephyrian officer shouted desperately. The Defiance led the charge, weaving through enemy fire with impossible agility. Laser bolts and plasma arcs streaked past, but the humans were ghosts. They struck where the Zephyrians least expected, flanking cruisers, crippling command vessels, severing supply lines. Blake's voice came over the fleet calm, deadly. This is humanity's truth. We don't just fight hard, we fight smart, and we never stop evolving. Explosions blossomed like supernovae across the battlefield. Zephyrian vessels exploded in huge fireballs, their fragments drifting into the black. Human fighters swarmed like hawks, breaching shields and boarding enemy ships. The alien commanders fought to regroup, but the sudden emergence of the human armada threw them into chaos. Lisa leaned back, exhaustion washing over her face. They never saw this coming. Jake nodded, eyes glinting. No one ever does. Captain Blake stared out the viewport. The stars burned bright against the void, but for the first time in this fight, the light was on humanity's side. "We've turned the tide," Blake said quietly. The war was far from over, but now the Zephyrians had a new fear, because humans had mastered the impossible, because humans fought like legends, because humans held a secret no one dared believe, and the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. Ready for the next battle, ready for the next strike. The UESN Defiance roared onward, slipstream humming beneath its hull, carrying humanity's hope and fury into the heart of enemy space. The bridge of the UESN Defiance thrummed with quiet energy. Captain Ryan Blake stood tall, his gaze steady beneath a brow furrowed by months of war. Behind him, banks of flickering consoles cast soft glows of blue and green across the worn steel walls. The hum of the slipstream drive thrummed in the background, a low, promising pulse. Around Blake, his officers moved with sharp precision. Jake Morrison leaned over tactical displays, fingers tracing enemy formations. Lisa Hayes monitored engineering feeds, her eyes bright with fierce determination. The stars outside the viewport stretched into streaks of light as the Defiance held position near the shattered Zepyrian fleet. The aftermath of the ambush was clear. Scattered enemy ships burned in the dark void. The Zepyrians were stunned, fractured. Blake's voice cut through the low chatter. All stations, prepare for fleet-wide broadcast. The crew snapped to attention. A hush fell over the bridge. The message Blake was about to send wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration. With a calm, deep breath, Blake activated the comm channel. His image projected across the array of human ships and rippled through intercepted alien transmissions. The Zepyrian commanders watching from their shattered flagships would hear every word. "You came here to crush us," Blake began. His voice was steady, a cold flame burning beneath the surface. "You thought humanity was weak, primitive, easy prey." He paused, letting the weight settle. Outside, the stars seemed to hold their breath. The Defiance's bridge lights dimmed slightly, focusing all attention on the captain. Were not just survivors clinging to scraps of space, were the hunters now. Blake's gaze sharpened. His eyes burned with the fire of every battle his crew had fought, every colony lost, every comrade fallen. "You underestimated what it means to be human," he said. "Our strength isn't in shiny tech or massive fleets alone. It's in our will, our passion, our refusal to quit." He stepped forward, voice rising just enough to carry through layers of space and silence. "We saw your moves, learned your patterns, and then we broke you." The holographic display behind him flickered, showing snapshots of human ships appearing out of nowhere, ghosts moving through the dark, striking hard, vanishing again. "You call us archaic, primitive, but it's you who are blind." Blake's face hardened. "You're facing a species that bends space itself, that fights with every pulse of its heart." A chorus of human voices joined the broadcast. Across the fleet, captains and crews echoed Blake's words, their voices a rising tide of defiance. "We are humanity," the voices said, low and fierce. The Defiance's communications officer, Lieutenant Maria Chen, nodded at Blake. The message was spreading fast. Alien channels were scrambled with confusion and alarm. In one of the Zepyrian command ships, a voice crackled over comms, strained and sharp. "How are human ships moving that fast?" it demanded. "Impossible! They're bending space, cheating physics." Blake's lips curved into a grim smile. "Not cheating, mastering." He turned back to his crew, eyes burning with resolve. "This is our moment. They came to write us off, to erase us from the stars." He clenched his fists, but they just woke the beast. Around him, the bridge crew straightened, ready. The bridge crew straightened, ready. The Defiance was no longer a lone survivor. It was the spearhead of a human avalanche. "This fight isn't just ours," Blake said quietly. "It belongs to every planet, every soul, every spark of life that dared to stand against the darkness." He looked out the viewport, where distant fires still flickered on Nova Prime's surface. The war was far from over. "But one thing is clear," he said, voice low and fierce. "We will not stop. We will not fail." The stars outside flashed brighter as the human fleet surged forward, a living storm. And now humanity was ready to show them what it truly meant to fight. The Defiance thrummed with power. Outside, the dark stretch of space waited. The UESN Defiance hung in the void like a battle-scarred titan. Its dark hull bore the marks of countless fights, scorch march, patched plating, scars of survival. Outside, the stars blurred as the ship powered up its slipstream drive again. Colors shifted, space bent. Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the comms. "All wings, form on me. Target the Vorak Sovereigns, escort cruisers. Keep them off the flagship." Lisa Hayes' fingers danced across her console. "Shield frequencies down on their left flank." "We hit there. Their defenses crumble." Captain Blake stood tall on the Defiance's bridge. His eyes burned with iron will. "Let's remind these Zepyrians they're not facing easy prey." The Zepyrian fleet had thought they had this fight in the bag. They didn't count on humans fighting dirty, not with the slipstream drive. The Defiance slit through space, vanishing from one place, flashing into another. One moment it was at the edge of the battle. The next it was behind the enemy lines. The mashed it was behind the enemy lines. Zepyrian cruisers fired blindly at thin air as human ships appeared where none should be. "Contact left!" Jake shouted. Human fighters swarmed a Zepyrian destroyer like a black cloud. The destroyer's shields flared under the sudden assault. Laser beams crisscrossed the void. Explosions bloomed like deadly fire flowers. Lisa's voice was calm but intense. "Engage boarding protocols. Ready the Marines." Human boarding pods slammed into the alien ship's hull. Clamps latched tight. Airlocks forced open with a hiss. On deck, human Marines poured out, guns raised. Alien crews scrambled, surprised and outgunned. "Hold positions!" barked a Zepyrian officer, but panic was seeping into their ranks. Back on the Defiance, Captain Blake watched the holographic star map flicker. The Zepyrian flagship Vorak Sovereign was the centerpiece now, surrounded but isolated. "Jake," Blake said, voice low and steady, "prepare the assault group. We're putting an end to this." The assault group, dozens of human cruisers and fighters, gathered like a coiled serpent ready to strike. Suddenly, a Zepyrian battleship fired a plasma barrage at the Defiance. The massive bolts lit up the darkness, blooming into brilliant orange and blue explosions against the ship's shields. "Shields holding," Lisa reported. "But they're focusing fire. We can't take this long." "Slipstream," Blake ordered. "Evade and counterattack." The Defiance shimmered and disappeared, reappearing behind the battleship. A volley of photon torpedoes tore into the enemy's rear armor. The battleship groaned, then exploded in a cascade of flames and debris. Zepyrian morale shattered further. "Sir, the flagship shields are weakening," Lisa said. "Good," Blake replied. "Let's finish this." Human fighters darted through the enemy fleet like deadly wasps. Laser fire painted the void in streaks of red and green. Explosions rippled outward as Zepyrian ships were blasted apart. "Hold formation," Blake commanded. "Keep pressure on their command centers." The human fleet closed in on the Vorak Sovereign. Inside the flagship, Zepyrian commanders barked frantic orders. Human boarding pods slammed into the Vorak Sovereign's hull. "Boarding actions initiated." Jake's voice was sharp. Marines poured in, fighting their way through corridors lit by emergency red lights. Captain Blake's voice echoed over the ship's comms. The ship shook with explosions. Alien officers fell back, overwhelmed. Outside, the flagship's shields flickered and failed. The Vorak Sovereign went dark in space, a blazing target. "Prepare to surrender," Blake said, voice cold steel. Alien vessels began to retreat. Flags of truce flickered on comm channels. Human ships resumed control of the battle. Stars lit the battlefield with fire and smoke. The Zepyrian fleet was breaking apart. Jake grinned. They didn't see this coming. Lisa leaned back in her chair, exhausted but triumphant. Captain Blake's eyes scanned the stars ahead. "This is just the beginning," he said. The humans had fought smarter, faster, and with a secret edge. The battle belonged to them now. The Zepyrian fleet lay broken and scattered across the void. Damaged ships drifted like wounded beasts, their blue-green hulls scarred and smoldering. Only a handful dared to limp away, their proud banners tattered, sails torn. Nova Prime's skies slowly cleared from the smoke and fire. The colony stood battered but defiant. From orbit, the UESN Defiance hovered like a guardian titan, its dark hull gleaming against the planet's deep blue seas. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge, his eyes sharp beneath a furrowed brow. Around him, crew members replaced lost systems and patched battle scars. "Status report," Blake commanded, voice steady but heavy. Jake Morrison, tactical officer, glanced up from the tactical display. Zepyrian fleet fragmented. Most ships disabled or destroyed. No sign of large reinforcements nearby. Lisa Hayes, engineer, wiped grease from her hands. "Slipstream systems are holding steady. We're ready for whatever comes next. We hit them hard. We showed them humanity isn't prey." There was pride in his tone, but also caution. "Captain, this was only the first strike. Other empires will hear about this defeat. They'll watch us now and prepare. Then let them watch. Let them prepare." Outside the bridge windows, Nova Prime's twin suns began to set, casting long shadows over the recovering cities. Smoke still curled from ruined settlements, but the people, children, farmers, soldiers, were already clearing rubble and rebuilding. This planet was their home, their future. A low, static-laced transmission came through. The bridge crew snapped to attention. "Captain, unidentified fleet emerging from beyond the outer rim," Jake reported. On the main display, a distant star flared bright. From its glare, a massive shadow appeared. Dozens of ships, larger and more ominous than anything they'd faced. The alien fleet's design was unfamiliar. Ships bristled with weapons, gleaming dark metal etched with strange runes. The sheer scale was intimidating. Static gave way to a deep, resonant voice, not Zephyrian, but something older. "This is the Sithar Ascendancy," the voice said. "We have observed your conflict, your defiance. You awaken the fires of the galaxy. So you're next," he said quietly. Lisa's fingers danced over the console, preparing defenses, weapon systems humming to life. The UESN Defiance shifted position, glowing faintly with energy. The bridge filled with a rising tension, a mix of fear and fierce determination. Blake stared out at the alien armada, planet's horizon glowing behind it. But humanity had faced darkness before. "Prepare all ships," Blake announced. "Alert the colonies. Rally the fleet." He turned to his crew, voice firm. "This victory was earned with blood, sweat, and fire. But it is only the beginning." He paused, eyes burning into the vast black beyond. The stars blinked cold and distant. But the UESN Defiance and her sisters stood like a wall of steel. A squadron of human fighters streaked past, their engines blazing bright orange trails. Ships of every class, sleek scouts, armored cruisers, massive carriers hovered ready. A human armada silhouetted against twin suns, and an encroaching alien force. But Captain Blake smiled grimly. The screen faded to black as the distant alien fleet closed the gap. The fight for humanity's place in the stars.